Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Parece bom demais pra ser verdade, né? Pois é. No ensino técnico do Senac, isso é possível. É ensino médio junto com formação técnica, que acontece durante os 3 anos. Lá, eles usam metodologia para projetos, desenvolvendo competências como resolução de problemas, pensamento crítico e colaboração, além de valores éticos e sustentáveis. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
E aí, galera, no podcast de hoje vamos falar de...
Ninguém precisa passar por isso hoje em dia. Tá com gases? Luftal. Ele age rapidinho, em 10 minutos, aliviando a dor e estufamento dos gases e evitando o pum. Porque desfaz os gases ainda na barriga. Chega de passar dor e constrangimento por conta disso.
Bora gravar de novo que agora eu tô pronto.
Luftal Simeticona, indicado para pacientes com excesso de gases no aparelho digestivo. Se persistirem os sintomas, o médico deverá ser consultado. Dezembro de 2024.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. We're currently in the middle of our winter book club series, but we have a special surprise episode. Today, we're interviewing Thea Guanzon.
Thea Guanzon is a New York Times, USA Today, Indie List, Sunday Times, and global best-selling author from the Philippines. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in International Studies with a specialization in international politics and a minor in peace studies. When she's not writing, she likes to travel, fangirl over villains, play Dungeons and Dragons, annoy her cats, and drink iced coffee. She currently resides in Metro Manila. Welcome, Thea!
Welcome, Thea!
Yay!
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's more than an honor for us, for you to be here. It is.
I don't know who's more honored.
Amy.
I lied. I am the most honored.
I want you to know that, like, from day one of this podcast, and we've, like, you know, it's been around for like three-ish years, people always ask us, who's your favorite author? What's your favorite book? And every single time, Amy, I'm like selling her out. Amy always says you. So it's we've been like spreading the good word as if it's like some kind of like the gospel of Thea. And we're just like, have you heard of this? Yeah. Before Hurricane Wars like was even out, it was always like, have you heard of this author?
Yes,
So.
I think your cousin even ended up reading.
Yeah, you convinced my family to read some of the OG stuff where I was like,
Yes.
you did? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so touched. I'm so flattered. And also, I don't feel pressured at all. Not a single bit.
Well, you shouldn't feel pressure because anything you say, I'll be like, yes, Thea's a goddess. It's fine.
I think like fan fiction was perhaps like one of my I think fan fiction was a saving grace for me and also like a refuge during the the beginning stages of the pandemic because the Philippines had one of the world's longest lockdowns. I was stuck in my condo for nearly a year and you couldn't go out, or because if you went out without like the proper permits and stuff, you'd get jailed. So
Oh my God.
Oh
yeah,
my
so
gosh.
I was just at home writing fanfic, and it was so nice to still have that anchor to the outside world in that
Yeah.
sense, and to
Mhm.
and to still have a sense of community in the fandom. So yeah, so it's so nice to be able to talk to someone who was
Yeah.
there, quote unquote, there with me during that time. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate it, Amy. Thank you.
I mean, and I feel like fan fiction is such a like wonderful community. And, you know, I think that now obviously we're going to be talking about your books and everything, but just like Amy and I both started reading fan fiction, like as we all did, way too young. And you start reading things. Like the first
yeah.
like dirty thing I ever read was a Lime fanfic of Inuyasha, and I was just like, oh my god. And it was, but like, and then I've written fan fiction, Amy's written fan fiction, and there's just like this community of
Yeah.
online fan fiction. And you know, yes, there's like highs and lows as any community, but I feel like no one understands the connection that a community has more than a fan fiction community.
I agree.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Did you guys also post on fanfiction.net?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh man.
Mine was a Twilight fan fiction. It was AU though.
Oh wow. A modern AU or
Modern AU. Yeah.
I posted Harry Potter. I don't know. Did you write or read Harry Potter fan fiction at all, Thea?
Oh yes, I actually found out about fanfic through Harry Potter because I was in high school and one day my classmate shows up with like this printed batch of papers inside a folder and she said, "Look at this." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "It's called fan fiction. It's it's about the Harry Potter characters, but it wasn't written by the actual author." And I was like, "That's so weird. Okay, let me read it." And I read it and it was like, "What is happening? Why are they having sex? What is going on?"
All the things that are supposed to happen are finally happening.
So that started like this whole fan fiction craze at my high school. I went to a Catholic all girls high school, so we were very repressed.
Which means very prone to fan fiction then.
Yeah, so
That's right.
during lunch break, we'd go to the computer lab and we would print out all of this NC-17 fanfic and pass it around.
And you're like, I'm printing stories from the internet. I don't know what you think is wrong with that. Mr. Something. Yeah.
I'm reading.
I'm reading.
Yeah, don't you guys want us to read? Don't you want us to improve our English? Isn't that the whole point of school?
That's amazing. Well, I'm so glad you found fan fiction, obviously. As I told Thea before we jumped on to record, like, fan fiction changed my life, but especially Thea's fan fiction. I love that I get to re-experience the story with new characters in a new setting. And, you know, for me, reading the first novel, it was harder to separate the fan fiction experience from the novel experience. But as I've read Monsoon Rising, I've felt this whole new like universe open up where it's much, much easier for me to separate. And I really love these characters. And one of the burning questions in my mind is, you know, the original fan fiction was very long. It was epic. It was literally a space opera epic and had so many wonderful arcs. And one of the questions I've always had is, how do you choose what to keep as you take this beloved fan fiction and create something new from it?
So when an editor reached out to me asking if I had ever thought about reworking some of my fanfic into an original novel, I was like, okay, sure, because I didn't think it would be that hard, but it was actually much, much harder than anything else I have ever done in my life. Because first of all, it started out as Star Wars fanfic, but I did not want to write science fiction because I I don't know anything about science. I can't I can't even do like basic math and like engineering talk. It all just goes over my head.
I
So
respect that so
I
much.
so I transposed it into fantasy, and the simple act of switching genres made it a very different story altogether. So I basically had to rewrite it from the ground up. So it was a whole new world. We were talking about whole new character dynamics, a whole new setting, and that really necessitated a whole new plot line. So it did so some at some point it became like not really deciding what to keep from the original fanfic, but just how best to proceed with this whole new story. So
Mm.
I think like there was a lot that was, I think like in the in the Hurricane Wars, maybe like 5% of the original fanfic made it there, cuz yeah, I there was just so much, because it was, yes, it was a very very long fic. I think it took me like 2 or 3 years to
I was,
finish.
yeah, I feel like you started like right after Last Jedi and finished right
Yeah.
before Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, that was at least 2 years.
I remember I kept promising everyone in my author's notes that, okay guys, I think we're going to end at like 25 chapters. And then a month later it'd be like, okay, I'll push it up to 30 chapters. And then in the end it ended at like 75
I was gonna
chapters.
say
And
it
I
was like 71 or something.
yeah.
It was,
Oh my
but
god.
it was, a, it was a masterpiece. So I have no complaints.
Thank you. I really hope that I can put it back online one day. Cause like I think like at this point the landscape and Hurricane Wars are such different things that
Yeah.
I don't think it would matter if it was back online. We'll see.
Yeah, because, like I said, Amy was like tossing around the book of Thea for us to all read. So I was like, when I originally read Landscape, and I didn't read the whole thing because I like
It was
Star
so
Wars.
long. I don't blame you at all.
I like Star Wars, but
I
that
blame
is,
her.
yeah.
I blame her.
It was just, I was like, you're using a lot of Star Wars words that I don't know. And I'm like, I'm like, oh God. So like the science fiction side of it. So it's funny because like as someone who I read a fair amount in the beginning and I was like, I like it, but like I don't do science fiction. I like Star Wars. But then when reading Hurricane Wars and the fact that it was transferred over to fantasy, my brain was able to wrap around that much, much more. And then so I was able to immediately kind of like see some of the original things that you were doing. But again, I had to stop because I'm like, I don't understand robots. I don't like, and then I had to, but then now I'm like, oh, I like, this is actually like, I think although it sounds like it was a hard transition, it lends itself really well. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, even though I've read both and I can see how you maybe cherry picked things, I felt like the transition was seamless. I thought you did a wonderful job transposing into a fantasy setting, and I felt like you hit all the archetypes we would expect from a fantasy romantasy. So I think you did great. I know as much as it might have hurt you in the process, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much.
And because my cousin will love this, shout out to my cousin Antonia. She read the fan fiction and then read Hurricane Wars, and she said that it was absolutely fantastic and no notes. So,
Oh, thank you. Hi, Antonia.
oh my God, she'll freak out. She'll love that. Thank you for that. Favorite cousin over here now. We were talking about how it's a fantasy book, right? You're building it and you have such extensive Star Wars knowledge. And now you are like, I'm going to create a fantasy world. And there's so many books that people, me included in my own like aspiration of writing, they're like, all right, I'm going to do a fantasy book. And they keep it fantasy light. You said, no, I'm going to make this as rich of a world as I possibly can. And we're talking magic system, we're talking cultures, we're talking everything. It's a very rich and vibrant world. So what was the world building process like? And you can especially, I really do applaud you where you can see the clear East versus West influence in our own minds. And then I feel like that's somewhere definitely intentional, but like how intentional does it did you know what it was going to be, or did it naturally happen and then you're like, that's what I want? Or did you set your mind to that?
So it's so funny that you should mention that the world building is rich and vibrant, because it did not start out like that. So the first draft of the Hurricane Wars was set in a very generic Euro fantasy setting. Not that European fantasy is generic, but it just felt that way in the Hurricane Wars because I did not have a personal connection to it. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
I was just using all of these European names, these European concepts, because that was what I thought fantasy should be. That was the kind of fantasy that I grew up reading. So when my agent read that first draft, she was very nice about it. She didn't say like, "Oh, this sucks." She was like, she was very tactful about it. She said, hey, why don't you set this in a Southeast Asian inspired world?" And it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that." And
Mm.
so from there, when I rewrote it, when I made the second draft, that was when the world really began to take shape, because this time I
Mhm.
was taking inspiration from Southeast Asia, from the Philippines, and um, this time it was something that I knew and loved and was very proud to be a part of. So shout out to my agent as well for steering me in the right
Yeah.
direction.
I
um,
mean, props to them for sure, because that's like, I mean, that's a push that we need to see more in
Yeah.
literature, especially in fantasy, because it is so
So,
Eurocentric. Yeah.
as for the east west thing, okay, so in my mind I conceptualized Lair as sort of like a planet wide Southeast Asia, but I wanted
mm,
to like have I wanted to make very distinctly different cultures, and that's probably why there's more like Western influence in places like Kesat. But I think like for me, like all of the characters are Southeast Asian, but
mhm,
Mm.
there were just some parts where I had to make it maybe more Western feeling, because I had to adapt the culture to the climate, because Kasab is very cold. It's a
mhm,
very temperate region. So yeah,
Mhm.
but there are Southeast Asian references even in Kasabi's culture. Like for example, wait, I'm trying to remember because the Hurricane Warriors was like a lifetime ago in my
I mean,
mind.
you can refer to Monsoon Rising. This is also coming out the day after Monsoon Rising comes out.
Oh, okay, great,
So
great.
we can reference Monsoon Rising too.
I remember there was the village where Alaric and Taliesin first meet in
Mhm,
battle. I described the architecture there, and that was actually based on the architecture of one specific ethnic group here in the Philippines, the Ivatan.
Oh,
They built their houses that way, like very durable walls and rooftops, because
okay.
they live up north. They live like where the storms come crashing into the Philippines, at the specific point
Mm.
where the storms come crashing into the Philippines from the ocean. And what else? The chimera, the emblem of Kesat, is actually based on the Pinsarupa, which I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is also a chimeric creature from Southeast Asian mythology. But yeah, I just needed to make them different from
mhm.
Nenavar in the sense that,
Yeah.
because I wanted to have that feeling of culture clash
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah.
You did it though. Like the culture clash is strong.
Yeah, the culture clash is strong, and look at our ignorant asses assuming it was West.
No, no, no.
That's our fault.
I think like I no, sorry, but I do think that like there's definitely like a more Western feel to Kesat and Sardovia, because as I said, they are in like a colder region. So the culture
Mhm.
had to kind of adapt around that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the West as we know it today, like well, as we know it like in the real world,
Yeah.
it is much colder and more temperate than Southeast Asia. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well, gave me the clue that this was Eurocentric is that the food was more bland, and to which because you describe it as being more bland, and I was like, you know what, British
It's
food. So
true.
this is a British. So this is a. I love you, Brits, but like let's be. I exclusively, and Amy can testify to this. I exclusively eat Southeast Asian and Asian food. Like there's no
Yeah, we
other.
both do.
I don't like people are like, "Do you want to branch out?" No, I don't, for a reason. And I feel like one of the things that was so vibrant and what I loved so much was food and how you talked about food.
I
And
love
there
food.
was, yeah. And, but like Amy and I had a really good talk about this where we were saying, like, you know, I was the one because again, like my ignorant ass was like, oh, like I was like, for fantasy, like I just never like read like sticky mango rice, or like things that I'm like, this sounds delicious. But then, like we were like, Amy was kind of saying like, well, stew and potatoes. Like that's not like fantasy exclusive. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. And Amy grew up in China, so a lot of the food that was described is like very comforting and like it reminds you of home.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is such a need, like even from like just we should all go eat. That's what I'm saying. But like I was like even to the things as food, like I think it is so important to bring in different cultures, different everything, and just to like, let's all be confident and say, yes, that's a Western country because it was bland ass food. And
Yeah, I think food is definitely like one of the ways in which you can really get to the heart and soul of a culture, of any
hmm
culture in the world. And to that end, I feel compelled to kind of defend British food. Okay, like
no, you know what? Australia's taking over a listenership. So if England wants to defend food, they can listen more. That's
no, okay. No, there was okay, when I went to London, I was kind of like bracing myself because that was what everyone was warning me about, right? Like, oh, British food is so bad. And I was like, okay, I'm mentally prepared. I'm mentally and emotionally prepared. But I got there and it wasn't that bad. I
yeah, I
really like brown sauce. Do you know what
okay.
brown sauce is?
Wait, yes. Okay. I was so aligned with you. Like we were like this there, and now I'm no. Okay, so I lived in London for 2 years. I did my master's
Oh,
there, and
okay.
like, but I lived in the East End, so I had like all the curry houses, and I was living my best life over there. But like, there's a line, and that line for me is brown sauce. Like, but I respect you. I still respect you.
No.
It's like not even. It's like they call the taste of it is brown. It's literally just called brown sauce.
I like it because it's very vinegar forward, and Filipino
That's
Okay.
true.
cuisine
That's true.
depends on vinegar. Like
Right.
Yeah.
vinegar is one of our most distinctive tastes. I remember the waiter, the British waiter, he didn't know where I was from. He said that, okay, I'm only going to give you a little bit of the brown sauce because it's quite strong. And in my mind, I was like, you underestimate my power.
Okay. That's I've won a number of like spicy burger competitions over there. I was like, oh, this is just sorry, like this is just normal. Well, I mean, so you mentioned something interesting though about like how food tells you a lot about the culture and why it does bring out things like and helps you structure a book, right? And like there's this one scene in Monsoon Rising. I'm not gonna give away any spoilers, but like there's just like talk of like how they keep bringing out food, like there's always like a reason to party, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
always a
yeah.
reason to celebrate, and I love that so much because like food is Hispanic background, Hispanic culture, where it's like very similar, where it's like food's about coming together. It's about
Mhm.
Yes.
you're cooking in the kitchen, you're talking to everyone, you sit around, dinner's 3 hours long, you're just sitting around the table eating and talking. So I love your take on that, and I can definitely see that in your writing.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the Philippines, like we take any occasion, no matter how big or small, as an excuse to bring food to one specific location and just eat and
Yeah.
have fun. And it's just a nice way to bond with
Mhm.
your family, with your friends. It's like food is a building block of community here and in a lot of
Yes.
Hispanic and Asian cultures as well. And I think like when it comes to food, like when you allow yourself to really immerse in the food of a specific culture, that's when like you learn what traditions are important to
Mm-hmm.
them. You
Mhm.
learn like you learn stuff like what ingredients are plentiful where they are and
Yeah.
Mhm.
what methods of preparation are embedded into their heritage. Stuff like that. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and it reflects so well in your writing because we do learn so much about Nineveh as we're reading these scenes of food and coming together. And I think that often gets overlooked in fantasy writing about
Mm-hmm.
how much the act of eating and gathering to eat can tell a reader a lot about the characters, the culture, and where they're at. So, I mean, I'm just going to continue to toot your horn because you did a great job.
Thank you.
One of the things I've loved about Monsoon Rising is that I felt like it took one of my favorite arcs and just made it brand new. And I really, really fell in love with Taliesin and Alaric in the process. And so my question for you is what's been the most fulfilling part of writing their journey as you've worked on the series?
The most fulfilling part, probably like the whole. I mean, like, uh, so the slow burn was a very important part of their dynamic for me. As you know,
Mm-hmm.
Amy, I really like writing slow burn.
You really
So
do.
It hurt. I haven't hurt this bad in a really long time for the slow burn. Like there's been a sorry. I'll continue, but I want you to know I explicitly had to put the book down several times. Like, what the? Are you gonna cock block me again? But continue. Sorry, just frustrated over
no,
here.
no, it's fine. So yeah, so I really enjoy the whole process of writing slow burn, of like getting things to, like, first putting things on a slow simmer, and then
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
letting them hit boiling point. So for me, the most fulfilling part was actually like when they finally bang it out. Like
Yeah, I get it.
because I think that writing a Larkin Townsend story, it made me realize that, like, sex, like, the sex is part of the plot, because
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, because when they finally do get together in that way, it's their walls coming down.
Hmm.
It's them finally arriving at a point where they understand each other somehow, and where they can connect to each other despite the fact that they have a very war torn and contentious history between them. So yeah, so no one was as relieved as me to write the beach scene, I swear.
I will never look at monsoons the same way again. Like I am. Do I go walking around in a monsoon? Is that how one finds an Alaric? Is that?
Alarm, where
Do
are
I just
you?
like throw myself in a hurricane? Be like, I'm here. I'm single. It's the spice though. Sorry, Amy. I
No,
apologize.
go ahead.
This I love what you said though about how the spice scenes, it was part of the plot. Sex is part of the
Mm-hmm.
plot, and every single spice scene that you did do, one, immaculate. Two, it was like very tastefully done. Like when it was always with a purpose. Like it always like
Mm-hmm.
had a reason behind it. If you wanted to publish a book of just smut, wouldn't be mad at it. But it was, I mean, like I always say, we've always said the best smut comes from fan fiction, because there's so many times I'll read like quote unquote spicy books and I'm like, okay, so what? She comes in half a page? Not with you, Thea. Not with you. We get we
Well, and yeah, I mean, obviously, I could gush for days, but what I think is so masterful about Monsoon Rising is what Jack is saying. It's the right level of intimacy for the purpose it serves, because as there's more, depending on the level of physical intimacy, reflects in the level of emotional intimacy that's developing. And so you never feel like it's egregious in the amount that is there, because you're always like, I really want them to have emotions for each other. I
yeah.
want them to talk about it. So yeah, bang it out so you can talk about it later. And I just think you've always had a really great balance. And going back to the idea of slow burn, like not enough people appreciate slow burn.
They don't.
And you like the amount of wanting we feel as the reader, and seeing the little things that Alaric and Tala do to acknowledge each other and
Yeah.
acknowledge that they're learning about each other. That's what you want in real life. Like, it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
what's
you.
also I mean, I'm just gonna gush about you. It's just like like in Hurricane Wars, you have tension. They get married, which is like, I'm like, love a plot twist. Like they actually get married in the first book. They have like a really like an explosive night, but they don't have sex. So it's almost like, how do you go back and rebuild a slow burn
Mm-hmm.
after characters have gotten together? And sometimes I feel like with some novels, you kind of feel like, okay, we're just taking like 5 steps back for the sake of 5 steps back. It never once felt that way with
Mm-hmm.
Monsoon. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, I totally buy why we're back to the beginning, if not in the beginning, negative steps because of now they have history. And the feeling that I got reading some of your scenes is the same feeling of watching Darcy like clench his hand when he just touches like
Elizabeth's
Elizabeth. Yeah. Like when that scene when he just kind of like clenches and you're like, oh, he touched your hand. He touched your hand and you liked it. That's how I felt like with some of your scenes.
Oh my God, that is the highest compliment because I love the Pride and Prejudice movies
Yes.
so much. And
Yes.
and also like I think one of my biggest inspirations for A Monsoon Rising was actually Asian dramas. You know how
Oh,
they draw it out.
yes.
You know how they like to draw it
Yes.
out. Like one kiss and then it's
Yeah.
back to square one. Like
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. That's what I really enjoy watching, and so I
You
enjoy
do
writing it
it.
as well. But I think that perhaps the trick there with doing that kind of slow burn is to make sure that every step backward has a purpose. If
Mm-hmm.
not to
Mhm.
move the plot forward, then to move the character growth forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and also like character growth is also not like the human heart is not linear. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
Mhm.
have like, okay, first I will feel angry and then I will feel first I will feel angry and then I will feel guilty and then I will just accept it. Like we don't work like that. Like we
Yeah.
circle around. And so that was also what I really wanted to capture, and I'm just glad that it worked for you guys.
Oh,
It
it did.
really
I
did.
love that. The human heart is not linear. Amy, you
Yeah.
found your next tattoo.
That is my next tattoo. I was just thinking that.
Because that's actually like really beautiful though.
It
Because
is
Oh,
very
thank
beautiful.
you.
it's really beautiful, and and it gives people permission to experience their emotions. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it never and like it's either done well or it's not done well, frankly. Like sometimes like you have characters who are like, oh my God, it's like pick an emotion or whatever. But that's not what it feels like. It really feels where you can understand it's like, oh, these are humans like in these imaginary world, but it's like it feels very human to go back and forth and just be like really struggling with it, and then also make choices because that choices are still made even if it's all in
Mhm.
their head, even if it's like they're not saying these things out loud. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but there are choices made, and that's a winding path. The heart is not linear. All right, someone
Mhm.
write that down. I think you should put that to shirts, Thea. We don't let us steal this idea. This is you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Turn
should
it
make
into
your
merch.
own merch.
Yeah, make your own merch. Okay, so kind of shifting the conversation back to, I mean, he is a shadow daddy, but he's just so much more. He's Alaric. He's going into the Alaric of it all, and we can feel your love for him. I really love him too. He's pretty unique for a male love interest though, because he's not immediately in love with the female protagonist. We love when they try to kill each other, and while his like development of his emotions are genuine, but it's not the main focus of their journey. Has finding that balance been challenging at all? Like, what has been the most challenging part of writing his character and his emotional and his character development? Because they really, I mean, obviously they're going to go hand in hand, but you're balancing two plates with him.
So I actually find Alaric's point of view easier to write than Talison's for some reason. Like
Oh.
I think it's because like Alaric's character, it comes from my kind of rage. It comes from like my own insecurities and stuff. So I think I
Mhm.
I think I put more of myself into him than
Mm-hmm.
than I do Taliesin, because Taliesin, she's very like she has a very strong sense of justice. She has a temper that's very like it's like right on the surface. While Alaric is more of like he holds all rooted deep inside because he has learned to not be so open with his emotions, and he's coming from a place where he has been brainwashed. Like he has
Yeah.
he has grown up with uh Cassidy's propaganda about how all around them, like everyone's out to get them. Like the only way to
Mhm.
keep their nation safe is to strike first. So it's a phenomenon called like the fear of the other, which I learned
Mm-hmm.
about in college, and it has stuck with me ever since because it's such a great
Yeah.
way to explain. Because we are afraid of the things that we don't know and don't understand, and fear is what makes us lash out first, so that because we think that that's the only way to keep ourselves and our loved ones from harm. So I think that that explains where Alaric is coming from. He has a very strong sense of duty to his nation, to his
Hmm.
father, and then comes Taliesin wrecking all of those plans, and so he has to like let go of all of his old prejudices, all of his old biases and stuff, and he has to open his heart to maybe to something that is not fear. Maybe he has to open his heart to hope, like hope for a better future, hope for
Yeah.
finally an end to war and things like that. So it's been such an interesting journey with him, and I really like writing it. But yeah, that was the challenge as well, like trying to conceptualize how his character arc would progress. There are a lot of moments where he backslides sort of, but he always comes back to all of these new things, to all of these new values that he has learned from his time in Nenevar. And I think it took me a while to get to put it into words that like I have to move him from a place of fear to a place of hope. But
Mm.
as
Hmm.
I was reading, as I was writing
Yeah.
a Monsoon Rising, I think that was when I finally stumbled upon it. Like, okay, he has to not be afraid anymore of what's out there. He has to
Yeah.
start hoping that uh he and his beloved wife
Yeah.
can work together for a better future. Not just for Kasath, but for all of them.
That's beautiful. But like as you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I read. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
exactly what
that's
happens.
exactly what he's just a sweet baby boy. Like he just really wants to smell his wife. Like he just wants to hold her hand. He reminds me of like, those cats that like you're kind of like I'm standoffish, but then like once they start cuddling, they're like, no, let me hold you, please. I want to be here. I just love how into her she is. He is, but there's a lot going on with his character, like the amount of trauma that he's been through and has to. I love the word that you use, propaganda, because it's more than just childhood trauma. It's a special
Mhm.
level of like political propaganda that he's been fed his entire life from daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what is so beautiful about his character arc is, like you said, that willingness to open himself up despite the propaganda, despite the abuse that he's endured. He has every right to be a closed off grump the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But it the hope he has is so beautiful, and the willingness to learn is so beautiful. You can tell how much he just wants to be loved during the process and how much it scares him to be loved. And I mean, I can understand, like you saying, I put a lot of myself in him because I feel like there's this really beautiful treatment of his character and a lot of soul searching that I think you do so well. I mean, I now understand you do so well, maybe because of experience and understanding yourself. And I think it translates so well. I don't know that I've ever read a male character as strong as Alaric.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. I find him to be really unique though, too. Like I know he's used the word unique, but he never comes off as a shadow alpha daddy. You know what I mean? Like it's and while he's not, he still is. He's still he's baby girl. I don't know. Like it's like he's still very real, and I think that's what's like the difference between a lot of like other shadow daddies versus Alaric, where because you've clearly put the emotional work into him. I'm like, oh well, that's why he doesn't feel like this mythical book boyfriend. He reads as someone I would love to know.
Yeah.
This is inspiring me so much. I mean, I've been
Oh.
stuck on the third draft. I've been stuck on the draft of book 3 for weeks, but I think after this I'll go and write because Thank you guys for loving him. I
Yeah.
feel that love and I'm inspired.
Oh, good, good.
Aw, I
Oh
love
my God.
that.
Yeah. Like, sure, well, okay. Like, he'll keep talking. We'll inspire. We'll read it. Okay.
I was gonna say, anytime you need a pep talk, just call me. I will give you
Yeah.
that pep talk.
And I think analyzing characters kind of helps a lot too. Because, like, even if like they're your own characters, because then they become like their own individual and their own everything. And that's where, for me, it goes separate from its fan fiction origin. Like, now it's just not. It's Alaric and Taliesin. That's who they are. I don't see the Raylo Kylo of it all. Like, I just see this like boy who just needed to be loved.
Yeah. Who was abandoned by his mother and doesn't want to be abandoned again.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's the emotions I felt.
Yeah.
I have a lot. Like, we can't say anything because we don't want to spoil them. No, I'll edit this out. When he and I was like, oh, don't give me an emotionally like growing individual. I'm gonna eat this shit up all day long.
He's a much better communicator than she is.
Oh my God, he is such-
You know what? That is such a good point. I was actually about to say that this conversation with you guys made me realize that Taliesin is actually so much more guarded and so much pricklier than Alaric.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, so many times Alaric is the one in his head who's like, all right, even in book 1, he was like, I want to continue this. This sex thing is awesome. I want more, please. I have a wife and she's pretty. Have you seen my wife? And then she's the one who shuts it down. And then the same thing happens here, like in the same book where he was like, okay, if I can just like smell your hair, that would be really great. And then like she's the one
And
who
then
shoots
she's
it
like,
down.
get away from me, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, a word from our sponsors. The best thing about gift giving is when you can identify the things someone needs that they would never get themselves, and that they're actually excited to receive.
Is this your way of saying that you're going to get me something from Quince, Amy?
I might, if that's what you want.
I absolutely do, because Quince lets you treat your loved ones, and I am your loved one, with everyday luxury goods, but at a very affordable price. I've actually been looking at their wool coats because now I'm traveling for the winter and I realize I don't own coats. And I am shocked with just how reasonably priced these are.
They do that by partnering directly with top factories, and they cut the cost of the middleman, which means we get more affordable pricing.
And not only can you get amazing wool coats from Quince or their Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which only start for $50, but you also have these amazing year-round gifts like their 14-karat gold jewelry, their Italian leather handbags.
All of the things you listed use premium fabrics and finishes so that every piece feels like luxury.
Gift luxury this holiday without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk.
Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Ei, você aí que gosta tanto de aprender. Sabia que a transição energética justa já faz parte da sua vida? Com a Petrobras, ela está no apoio a projetos socioambientais, no desenvolvimento de energias renováveis e na redução de emissões. Com inovação e respeito ao meio ambiente, a Petrobras é líder na transição energética justa. E isso é bom para todo mundo. Petrobras, o Brasil é a nossa energia. Brasil, União e Reconstrução.
Você ama ter mais flexibilidade para estudar. Use a sua nota do Enem e venha para Anhembi Morumbi. Aqui você pode escolher qual modalidade se adapta melhor à sua rotina. Presencial, semipresencial ou ensino à distância. Tudo com uma metodologia inovadora e prática desde o início do curso. Descubra por que milhares de alunos amam estudar aqui. Acesse anhembi.br e garanta a sua vaga mesmo antes do Enem. Anhembi Morumbi. Aqui tudo acontece.
And then there's one scene where, again, I'll work any spoilers out, but Taliesin expresses herself. All right, this is the part I'll tell you when I'll edit this one out. When Taliesin goes into, you had a point where both of them clearly express their point of views, and I love it because thank you for the communication. Thank you for that. I struggle so much when I'm like, just freaking say the words, babe. I need you to just use your voice, use your words, say it. And they did it. But I also think what was really cool about that is that you got a better understanding of Taliesin and Alaric and how they viewed the situations differently.
So I admit that I originally wanted to draw out the miscommunication trope much longer, but then I realized there's already so much that they're keeping secret from each other. There's so much that they're hiding. Let's just have them be honest with each other in some way and as honest as they can be. Because there are already too many secrets going on. Let's just have them be genuine.
Yeah, if they can't be honest about their betrayal, they can't be honest about their love for one another. So what can they be honest about? Their anger for one another.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't tell you how much I love you, but I can tell you how much you pissed me off.
That is the easiest part to communicate to someone.
It is.
At the end of the day.
I mean, Thea even said, not Thea, Thea did say it, but Taliesin also said, in the book, she was like, I'm going to pick a fight because that's the only way we know how to do it. That's the only thing I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. Which is true. Some people don't know how to express their love except through whatever patterns someone else demonstrated for them as they were growing up.
We actually have a Filipino term for that. It's
really?
What is it?
Yeah, but it's based in the Spanish language as well. It's called cariño brutal. It's like
cariños, brutal, brutal cariños. Yeah,
cariño brutal, like the killing kind of love.
Yeah,
it's like when you take everything that you feel for someone and you channel it into
that's
aggressiveness.
really funny.
Aggressiveness and taunting.
That's no, I don't do that, Amy. What are you talking about? I do that.
Every time she's impressed with me or proud of me or think I'm good, she wants to throw things at me.
Not one. I do throw things at you. I do throw things at you. I'm like, if I'm really happy for you, I will hit you. It's just so this is awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say that because my mom, I always get mommy, I want cariños, and she's like, mi huevita, just that growing up, it's just giving a lot of love. So I love that though, brutal kindness,
brutal love.
Brutal love. Just really pound that in. Oh, I relate to that so deeply.
I call it reliving your childhood trauma. That's what I call it.
All right, we're going to have to examine that.
I know. Who threw things at you, Jack?
I don't know. I'm going to have to really question this.
Oh my God.
Basically an only child. I had no friends.
So since we're talking about Taliesin and her inability to communicate, and knowing now that maybe you connected more with Alaric as you were writing him than you did Taliesin, were there surprises as you developed her character or took her on this journey during Monsoon Rising?
Well, I think that there was this one scene pretty early on in the beginning where I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it in a way that's
you
not
tell
spoilery.
us, I'll edit out. I'll bleep. You tell us.
Yeah, we can bleep things.
It's when she had to do this particular thing that she did not think she had in her, but she had to do it in that specific moment in order to save Alaric's life.
Wait, which one?
I think
when she
yeah.
I need it said for me very plainly. When she
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
I
cool.
think I think like it was surprising to me because I did not think I could get her to that point. But when I finally wrote that scene, I think it felt right because I think that was the moment when she realized and I realized that she could be just as brutal and just as ruthless as her husband. And like so
Mm-hmm.
I think her relationship with Alaric, it's opening her up to a world of like, like physical pleasure, but it's also opening her up to like the possibility that maybe things are not as black and white as she thought they were. Like
Yeah.
that she's realizing that she has some darkness of her own, and maybe there's no such thing as what's good and what's evil. Like maybe she's trying to free herself from those constructs as much as Alaric is.
Yeah. That's a I'm happy that you brought up that moment because that is a thing that happens. This is me trying to be vague about it. She reflects on it, but she doesn't hold on to it for the entire book. And the reason why I feel like that works is one, soldier background. Like things
Yeah.
are different there. Two, I think like you said, like it does lend her to both forgiveness and understanding of her, but forgiveness and understanding of him. Because if she can understand this concept of her and she's like, you know what, like not much is different from war. This is like what it is. He's someone that I needed to protect. And then she was like, but I'm able to do this act. Then what does that say about Alaric? Because then it's like that relating and that forgiving, it goes back and forth between the both of them. Because I do think Taliesin has a good sense of her own morality. Like, I don't think that she necessarily struggles with like, am I doing this for the right or like, am I a bad human being? Like, there's struggles and stuff there, but I don't think she's ever like truly at this point. I don't know what book 3 looks like. Feel free to tell us. But I haven't seen like a true, like a moment of saying like, am I the villain? Like, I think because she grew up in wartime and she was part of a war, you don't see that battle there, which I like a lot because I think that is true to her character growth.
Yeah, I think what I loved about that moment is it's a classic trolley problem. Like, am I gonna, right? I mean, for her, it might have been more instinctual, but it's this idea of if I don't do this, I'm sacrificing so many other people. But if I do this, I save those people, but this person suffers. And that is a really important moral conundrum. And you only are going to know what you're going to do when the moment calls for it, right? You can theorize about it all you want, and it really does open up a world of understanding. And I can see how Taliesin and Alaric's relationship like improves because of this one moment and Taliesin's struggle with, I am still a good person despite this taking place.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point to make that yeah, you really don't know what you're going, like it's so easy to read about stuff in the news or to watch a movie and say like, "Oh my God, don't do that." Like, or I wouldn't do that. It's so easy to say that. But when you're actually faced with it, like it's up in the air.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what choice you're going to make until you're there in that moment and you're actually making that choice. So yeah, I think that's a great analysis of Talison's character. She's very like she has a very strong sense of what's right and what's wrong, and like all of these little things that are tugging at the strings of that, all of these little things that are all of these little moments that are making her question all of that. So I think that once she loses sight of what's right and what's wrong, I think that's when she starts to have that's when she will truly start to have like maybe her awakening, but also like her nervous breakdown. So I'm actually like
Are we
very
talking about book 3 stuff? Are we getting little hints of this?
I think what I love is that these two characters are going through deprogramming at the same time
Yeah.
in tandem.
Yeah.
And they don't quite realize that about each other. And their deprogramming looks different. But
because both sides, I mean, clearly there's one side of the war that's not good, but you're seeing both sides of the war having to do really horrible war things. And
Right.
what do these people have to do to figure it out? But what also is really similar with Taliesin and Alaric is the fact that they both have like severe PTSD. Like they both have a lot of trauma that they're working through, and everything from like abuse to socioeconomic disparity to food insecurity. And like there's a lot of things that they're both going through. Was that something that you were thinking like, I need to incorporate it? Does it come naturally? Does, you know, because it's like part of what they bond with, and you kind of like weave it in and out at just the right moments. You know, like it's not just kind of out of nowhere, like, oh, so now we're gonna have a PTSD response here. Like you're like, oh, this has actually been pretty consistent.
So like I don't think that I ever consciously planned like any of it. I feel
Hmm.
like I just I feel like that when I write scenes like that, I just go with I try to think about what the character would be feeling in that moment, and then I just try to go off from there.
Yeah.
I don't think that I like it's not like I say, oh, okay, we need a PTSD moment here, we need a
Yeah.
PTSD
Hmm.
moment there. It's just I for me, my writing process is more like I just let these characters bounce off of each other. I just let them interact, and then whatever they unearth, whatever
Yeah.
trauma they unearth during that interaction, if in the editing process it works, then let's keep it in. Things
Hmm.
like that. I know that I really should like learn how to outline, but I don't.
No, what you're doing works for you. Why bother learning something new
Wait, do you just like write by? Are you a pantser or are you an outliner?
I do
or
not
planner?
know how.
Planner.
I do not know how to outline at all. I
Wait, do you sit down and you're like, I have a hope, a dream, and a wish, and you just start writing?
yeah, that's how I write.
You just broke Amy. You just broke her.
Your writing does not read that way. Your
Oh
writing
my
reads
gosh.
like you've been planning for a lifetime.
Yeah.
I am so impressed because that's really hard to accomplish. Like there's a grace about how you weave this character's history and underlying motivations into all of their interactions that for a lot of people does not come naturally and that you have to plan for. And I'm sure it's part of the drafting and editing process, but like I don't think you understand how natural you
You
make
are.
it all
Yeah.
seem.
Yeah.
Like
Th-
you are effortless. Your work is effortless.
Thank you. I think it comes from a place of having a lot of trauma.
Oh,
It's great. You're using it wonderful, sweetie. You're doing a
yeah.
good job with it.
Make money off that trauma.
Yay. No.
No, I mean, well, I feel like trauma is too strong a word. This is like I just
No,
have a
it's
lot
true.
of angst deep inside me.
I get it. I love sad music. I'm a sad girl at heart.
I
But
know.
the thing is, though, like, you know, we talk about a book. Anyone could write a book, right? Sure, like you know, that's in theory. However, there's just like a part that can't be taught because Amy and I like we both did creative writing class. We majored in it. Uh, would not recommend. Just you know, maybe for some people didn't work for us. And because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, there is a certain thing of just like natural talent that has to happen. I think you just walked into clearly you've got that natural talent, except it's even more than I
I
thought.
I
It's even
think
more.
yeah, I think the universe was like a sprinkle of fun, a sprinkle of angst, natural talent. Let's just dump the whole thing in.
You're like the Powerpuff Girls, but
Yeah.
special
It's
ingredient
exactly what I
X
was
is like
thinking.
writing.
No, okay, but this line of conversation got me thinking about like, so where does my angst come from? And I realized that like, okay, so I grew up in a very traditional Asian family. Like
Hmm.
my aunts, my uncles, my parents, my siblings, my cousins, they are all either doctors or lawyers. So
Hmm.
Mm.
for the longest time, I tried to fit that mold as well. I was in, my first course, I was in pre-med, things like that, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I think like I really harmed myself trying to be like what my family expected and wanted me to be. But I'm glad that I was able to like stick to my guns and go with what I really wanted to do
Yeah.
in life and follow my passion. But I think that's why like Alaric and Taliesin also carry a lot of that baggage. That's
Mm.
because that's my baggage. Like they're trying to fit the mold.
Yeah.
They're trying to be what people expect them to be.
Expectations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. They are struggling under the weight of all of these responsibilities, all of these duties to their respective sides of the war. And in doing so, they are actually like burying that burying their own selves. Like
Yeah.
all that they want to do, they just want to be loved, they just want to
Yeah.
belong to someone, and but they're hiding all of that desire under like the mask of the things that they need, that they think they need to be, that everyone is
Hmm.
Mhm.
telling them to be. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, this podcast is so much better than therapy, honestly.
Oh, yeah. So we'll set this up once a week. Is that what we want to do? Happy to do so. It's yeah. So like with it's funny because like we talk about like Taliesin and Alaric, and like both of them want to create something better than what they were brought into this world to do. I mean, Alaric was literally raised in it. Taliesin was kind of introduced to it, but like still like born to do it. And as a reader, you're sitting there being like, say screw them all and go start it, and but that's just not how it works. And
Mhm.
Amy's not gonna like say plug it, so I'll plug it. But like talking about someone who grew up in a Asian household, who went to school pre-med and then decided to go follow the creative writing path. Hello, Amy. And it's that is her as well. And then like, I had like a very Hispanic family, and so although no one expected me to be a doctor, I think they realized real fast with me. But like it is one of those things where it's like it's hard to break away when people have expectations. And I think that
Yeah.
you address it in a way where it's not like, oh, well, these are just familial expectations. No, these are lives. It's a
Yeah.
war. It's an actual
Yeah.
continent that you're doing. It's not like hey, we really would love you to major in this. It's like, no, we would love for you to not go into war again.
Yeah, we would love you to save us from war. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why I ultimately connect so much with Taliesin and Alaric, is because of that kind of similar upbringing of expectations and, ultimately failing those expectations and saying, I don't care. I don't care what you want
Right. Well,
anymore.
whatever Amy just said, I feel we should look at that as to Taliesin. The fact that you used failing expectations is interesting, because did you fail expectations or did you break into new ones? Sorry, we're therapizing everyone here.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
No.
I use the word failing their expectations, not my own.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I'm just like, now I'm like, how can we make this all into book 3?
You know that
Anyway.
meme? You know that meme where like the movie, the Chad Michael Murray's movie with Hilary Duff, where his
Oh yeah.
dad
Oh yeah,
stops
Cinderella story or something. Yeah.
where his dad stops him as he's about to leave the football field, and his dad is like, "You're throwing away your dream," and then Chad Michael Murray says, "No, Dad, I'm throwing away yours." I
Yes,
feel
yes. It's absolutely right.
I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like a lot of my life, a lot of my writing is just like trying to unpack that scene because I relate to it so deeply.
A lot of my life is unpacking One Tree Hill, Chad Michael Murray, so I get that. I get it.
But it's so true. I think people, it's just like comedians who tell stories because they're,
Mm.
often deeply sad, and they're, I think, not that I'm saying all writers are sad, but we all have something where I feel like sometimes it's just about telling a fun story, but other times I know with my own experience with writing, it's about working through the things you can't work through, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to put these characters in situations, whether it's subconscious or conscious, that they'll figure it out. And when they figure it out, I'm going to feel better.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you sort of get the sense that okay, so these characters figured it out. That means that maybe one day I will figure it out as well.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's what's so beautiful about writing in general and about literature in general, because it is a source of hope for a lot of people for this reason.
Yeah.
That I feel connected to this character. This character reflects some of my experience, and they turned out okay.
Yeah.
And that gives you hope.
For me, it's like whenever I read a character that has like a similar body type to mine, I'm always like, of course you can find love. And then I'm like, I can find love too. I'm a sad girl at heart. I listen to So Long London in the gym to get me hyped. Like,
Oh
that's,
my god. I should try that next time I'm on a run.
Good luck.
No, do it. It's actually highly recommend it. And then do the 10-minute version of All Too Well, because then you'll have done a 10-minute run.
Oh my god, I listen to the 10 minute all too well when I jog. I'm like
Yeah, because then if you do 3 All Too
I'm like
Wells, you run
running
for a
and I'm
half hour.
like,
Yeah.
So, as Jack alluded to, we studied creative writing. We do writing on the side for fun with the one day of hoping to publish. So we always ask selfish questions for those who've either self-published or trad published. So, what have you learned through the process of your writing your books, getting them on shelves, going through the drafting process, working with editors? Is there anything through all those processes that really stood out to you, or that you learned from the first book that you were able to apply to Monsoon Rising?
I think okay, so I have learned a lot over the past year. Or oh my god, no, it's been 2 years. I feel like I've gone through war. Anyway,
A hurricane one, yeah.
Yeah, hurricane.
so the thing that immediately springs to mind is like, okay, so when I was not yet like doing this for a living, I I would just wait for inspiration to come, like before I write. Like everything has to be a certain way, conditions have to be right, the air has to be the exact perfect temperature,
Yeah.
things like that before I started writing. And then when I actually got into Chad Pub, I realized that like no, okay, if I sit around waiting for inspiration to come, I will never get any of these contractually obligated deadlines done. So I have learned to sort of just sit down and write and just get these words on the page. Like even if they're not good words, like at least they're all there and
Yeah.
it can always be fixed in editing. So yeah,
Yeah. Get the
that's probably
words
like
out.
that's probably like my most important lesson. Like inspiration can come during the editing process. Like
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
yeah, exactly. You just need to finish. You just need to do it first so that you have something to improve on. At
Yeah.
least like you have like the way forward. And
That's good
ano-
good advice.
It really is.
It is. Yeah.
another thing probably like um trust your editor, but also trust yourself. So it's a there are some things you have to go into publishing with a very humble mindset because you have to accept that you are not the greatest author that has ever lived. You have to take your editor's criticisms with grace and with understanding because you are both working towards the common goal of producing a good book, like of producing the best version of the book that you could possibly achieve. So I have deferred to my editor on so many things because like if I turn them over in my head, it's like, oh, okay, so it wasn't personal. It was just like the best way that this story could go. But there are also some things that I well, not I don't want to say fought for because it's not like I went to
Advocated.
my
You
it's not
advocated.
yes, advocate because it's not like I
Yeah.
went to my editor's house with a gun or
For
something.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, there are really some things that I advocated for, like some very not like huge plot changing moments, but like even just the little things like okay, in the Hurricane Wars, there was this one scene at the night market where Taliesin overheard the conversation of some of the drunk people at the next table.
Yeah,
Mhm.
My
yeah.
yeah. So my editors were actually not sure about that scene, but I really advocated to keep it in because it's a very for me, it's a very integral part of Filipino culture. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
all of these drunk uncles sitting around the table and
Just
just
talking shit with one
curse,
another. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
cursing. Just so I really felt it was a very important cultural reference. So I really
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so I really fought to keep that in,
I love that.
uh and in the Monsoon Rising, there were several emotional beats that my editor wanted to like leave to like cut because she felt that she wanted to cut because she found them maybe a little bit too extraneous. But I said like no, I think like this is the direction they should be going in. Just let me rework it. Just let me fit it
Yeah.
better into the
Mhm.
story. And I
Mhm.
think was definitely to the that was definitely a good thing for the book overall. So yeah, so it's a matter of like um taking constructive criticism and letting it improve your craft, but also
Hmm.
Mhm.
not like just blindly following what the higher
Yeah.
ups say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, what it sounds like is it sounds like a really productive collaboration, right?
It
I
is. I
want
love my editor so much.
and I love that it's like how you put it about working towards a common goal and also advocating for when like no, this is a really integral not only piece of the culture, but you get glimpses of Talzin's
Hmm.
PTSD in the process of her overhearing these conversations. And I remember the moment exactly because I was like, that is such a good, subtle way of like putting a breadcrumb out there about her past
Yeah.
experience.
Yep. I'm just sitting here absorbing it all in because I think, I mean, I love it. Like, you do have to advocate yourself. And, you're talking about like some of the emotional beats in the second one. And,
Yeah.
from what it sounds like, you kind of like reconstructed it and made it, you took the notes, you made it more yours. But like, I think the emotional beats like absolutely hit. And I swear I have more than one interest than Taylor Swift. But if Taylor can have Jack Antonoff, then we can have editors.
That's right.
Exactly. I think that's such a good metaphor, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like every other creative endeavor, right? Movies, music, it involves a village. Like, you don't have one person
Yeah.
who
Mhm.
does it. So why would we think that, yes, you have the author who's like doing the majority of the work, but like we should view it as collaborative if you want to make it the
Yeah.
best book you can.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, I'll ask my one quick question and then Jack will ask some flash questions. But let me start by saying in my book, A Monsoon Rising is equivalent to Empire Strikes Back and The Last Jedi, where it's a sequel, but it's the best one. Not and obviously the third book hasn't been written, but it's so good. I just like it's equivalent to a standalone for me because of how good it is. And I felt when I finished reading Hurricane Wars, I felt like it was such a risky move to save the Moonless Dark for A Monsoon Rising. So I am so curious. Did you ever consider prolonging the Moonless Dark to be the whole trilogy? Or how intentional was the I'm saving it for the second act?
Um, it what I I don't know how to say this without giving away
You're
spoilers,
like,
but
yes.
I
Oh,
mean, we have not seen the last of the Moonless Dark. Like, yes,
Mm.
there's stuff that happened there that will factor into the plot of the third book. So
okay.
Oh.
yeah, so I don't know how else to say it without like
No, I love it.
I see Harper Collins snipers outside my window.
Well, I mean, you could have said nothing and I would never have guessed. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was like, I thought it was wrapped up and done. But
I know that yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in book 3.
okay.
I will also, I mean, okay, I want to preface all this. I do want to say, I think you have some of the prettiest prose I've ever read.
Hmm.
Oh,
Like
thank you.
your prose are there's no doubt. It's masterful. Like you nailed prose. This is the kind of prose that we would talk about in college. Like absolutely. This is the kind of prose that we would be like, let's analyze this paragraph, and like we could for hours. You have the prettiest prose. Those prose were very clear first book. Like, and I enjoyed the first book. I thought the first book was really good. Monsoon Rising was really good. Like it was
elevated.
It was real. And I'm like, and I just think that it says a lot about an author when you can see the progress in a series, because you always hear about that second book, like, scaries
Slump.
or the set slump
Yeah.
or something like that. And so I always love when you can see the like, because like no matter what, every book you write, you're going to learn things from it. Like it's not like the process ever ends. It's not like, oh, did my first one, so I'm done with that. Like it's always going to continue to grow. And to see a book where you already were good at what you do, like in the first book, like there was it was like objectively you cannot argue the fact that it's good. But then there's something in Monsoon Rising where I was like, oh damn, like I was like, there's just a lot of growth there, and you have years and years of writing behind you, and so the fact that there is more growth behind that is impressive, because like you've done the years, you've done the writing. How does one keep learning and doing better, and yet you nailed it?
Thank you. I think maybe part of that is because in the first book, in the Hurricane Wars, I was more focused on like the world building, on setting up the world, setting up the politics of the world, the character dynamics and stuff. So by the time I got to A Monsoon Rising, most of the groundwork was already done. So I could
Yeah.
just vibe. I could just vibe with the characters.
You were
And
vibing, I was
yeah.
vibing, we were saying we were vibing together. Yeah.
And so like I think in that context, like maybe I was able to be more stylistic with my prose, because this time like I didn't have to, like I didn't have to
Yeah.
spit out facts about anything. I didn't have to explain stuff. Like people could just
And I'm
vibe.
bad with facts, so that's on me. I'm so bad with facts. I constantly do not remember facts in general. No, but I mean, whether I can see what you're saying there and I can understand what you're saying, but I want to like say, I just think you're good. So, take that, Thea. You're talented. Okay, so here's some flash questions from listeners.
Okay.
So we'll we've held you up this long, so we'll not go too much longer. But Jess asks, what scenes was most impactful for you as the author?
For A Monsoon Rising,
let's keep it monsoon.
definitely like all of the spicy stuff. It was very impactful for me, honestly, because I think that's where most of the growth came in, and that's where most of like finding that's where most of the finding stuff out about each other came in, because Alaric and Taliesin are they're very tactile people. They're very touch starved. They've been longing for connection their whole lives, and they finally found it in each other. So it wasn't just those little spicy moments where like it was sweet and it was also like a bit aggressive. And I think like I just really enjoyed writing them, and I think like those are the most emotional parts of the story that
I
I
love
hope that
that.
the reader will also enjoy.
Oh, I did. Another question is, I mean, you kind of answered this already, but like, just to double check, who's your favorite character to write?
Oh yeah. Although that does change. That my answer to that changes like depending on the day, depending on my mood.
Yeah.
Like as of now, it's definitely Alaric, because I really liked the stuff that I uncovered about him in Monsoon Rising. But in the Hurricane Wars, my favorite character, right, was Taliesin, because of course, because like I was seeing the world through her eyes at first, and then I just really enjoyed writing like someone who was spunky and fiery and very quick tempered. That was so fun for me. And
You have a
yeah, for
favorite
a
in this
month.
third one?
And the third one, I don't know, because the third one is like not even a quarter of the way done. We'll circle back to this next year.
We'll set up quarterly meetings. We'll help wherever we can, and I'll be nosy, and I get to be nosy. And then finally, what is your favorite special edition of the Hurricane Wars? Do you have
or a Monsoon
Monsoon Rising? Are there fun special editions of Monsoon coming out?
The Waterstones version that is sold out is like my dream version of a Monsoon
So
Rising.
pretty.
It's
There's
so
also a
pretty.
fairy loot version coming out.
Oh.
Yeah. I really like the cover of that one, but I don't think I can pick a favorite edition because it's like asking me to pick a favorite child. They're all so
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
I
They
would
are
pick
very
a
pretty.
favorite child. No,
You
I'm just-
would, and that's why.
Although
I,
I guess my favorite would probably be the edition that only I have. My publisher
Oh.
sent yeah, I don't know what the term for it. Like I don't know if there's a term if there's a specific term for it, but my publisher sent me like a special version of the
Yeah.
Hurricane Wars. It was typeset in a different way. It was typeset in like in an old timey kind of way, and
Oh.
it was sprayed gold. The edges were sprayed gold, and it's
Oh.
just so nice. It's like it's my baby. I should.
That's
Thanks for reminding me. I think I'll post it tonight. I'll post a photo of it tonight.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love I mean like sure you can share it to the world too, but I would love to see it.
I'll
Yeah,
email it.
that's so
I'll
great.
email it after this podcast. I'll email a photo.
Yes, it's
Thank
I'm like
you.
I was like I'll just slide into your DMs and be like, "Hey, so love that background." Yeah, no, that's your book lends to pretty. I
Yeah.
will say. Like it just lends to a very pretty
I
world
am
because the world is pretty.
I am so lucky, I think, because the cover artist for all the for the UK and the US edition and the Fairly edition is Kelly Chong. She's Malaysian.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She is
Yeah.
one of my longtime fandom friends, and it
Yeah.
was just so great to be able to work with her because we're both Southeast Asian, and she
Yeah.
was able to incorporate a lot of the commonalities in our two
Hmm.
cultures and bring them to the covers. And so
Yeah.
I'm just so lucky to be working with her.
Oh.
I've been following her account for years because she created Raylo art. So as soon as I saw your cover, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's After Art Blossom.
What if we
That's her
have
handle.
what if we have Art Blossom do art of the text the heart isn't linear? And then that's your tattoo.
The
Ooh.
human heart is
the
not
human
linear.
heart, yeah. Like
Yeah, I
I'm
love
getting my
that.
very first tattoo in a couple months, so I'm like, Amy, you have to get one at the same time as me, but not matching because that scares me.
Yeah, and I've got a bajillion, so it's fine.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. This has been fan freaking tastic. I love
Thank you
when
so
meeting an author and they're just as like wonderful as you would hope them to be, and then you're more. You're great.
Thank you. This was so fun. I feel like this is the longest I've ever been on a recording because
I'm
we
so
got
sorry.
so no because we got so carried away talking about like all the other like we talked about brown sauce for like 5 minutes.
We
We're
did.
asking you the hard-hitting questions here at Book Talk for Book Talk. You'll never have another podcast that talks about brown sauce with you.
And I think that's amazing. Like I really like it when podcasts are very like like it's not just about asking the questions and having them answered. Like there's a genuine conversation going on. So thanks for that, guys.
Oh my god, thank you. Well, I didn't really thank you for
Thank
for the
you.
review. Appreciate it.
And I'm also sorry that my cat was like
Oh, I loved it.
encourage
I
it.
loved every.
Encourage the cat. Love the cat.
my answer was so serious at that point, and then he was just going up and down.
Like, well, the trauma of someone's background child.
Thea, you have made my little fangirl heart stream come true, and I never knew that I would have an opportunity to talk to you, but I'm so grateful and how gracious you've been because this was not only fun, it was just a dream. I've already said a dream come true. I don't know what else to
It was
say.
educational. It was fun. It was no, you're right. Dream come true is in fact does get it for us. We're huge fans of you. We're so excited and can't wait to hopefully have you back when we talk about the third book and all the wonderful other books that we are sure in the pipeline for you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such an amazing experience. I had so much fun recording with you guys. And yes, let's definitely do a book three. It was so nice to meet you
Yeah.
both.
Thank you. All right.
Yes.
Bye. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Bye.
Where can
Oh.
people find you on social?
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have a website. It is
Oh,
theaguanzon.com. I made it myself.
damn
It's
Ooh.
right.
it took me 3 days because
That's
I'm
about
very
right.
technologically challenged, but yes,
It looks
theaguanzon.com.
fabulous.
And I am also on social media. I am Thea G Writes on Twitter, Instagram, uh, Blue Sky, Threads, and where else? Yeah, that's it. And
TikTok?
I am oh yes, TikTok. Yeah,
Okay.
there are there are too many
Yeah, just
platforms, but yes, I'm Thea G Writes on all of them. Although I probably use Instagram the most.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll make sure everyone goes and follows you, and they can see all the pretty covers that are coming out. And everyone, please make sure you go and go get Monsoon Rising.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time. All right.
All right.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to our special episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Stick around for tomorrow's episode where we continue our discussion on Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode. If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Bye.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
The best thing about gift giving is when you can identify the things someone needs that they would never get themselves, and that they're actually excited to receive.
Is this your way of saying that you're going to get me something from Quince, Amy?
I might, if that's what you want.
I absolutely do, because Quince lets you treat your loved ones, and I am your loved one, with everyday luxury goods, but at a very affordable price. I've actually been looking at their wool coats because now I'm traveling for the winter and I realize I don't own coats. And I am shocked with just how reasonably priced these are.
They do that by partnering directly with top factories, and they cut the cost of the middleman, which means we get more affordable pricing.
And not only can you get amazing wool coats from Quince or their Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which only start for $50, but you also have these amazing year-round gifts like their 14 karat gold jewelry, their Italian leather handbags.
All of the things you listed use premium fabrics and finishes so that every piece feels like luxury.
Gift luxury this holiday without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk.